In the interior of Minas Gerais, there is an old abandoned farm that carries a tragic history. In the past, the farm was prosperous and home to a wealthy family. The lands were fertile, and the workers lived in relative peace under the supervision of the owner, Joaquim. The main house of the farm, with its white walls and blue windows, was a symbol of prosperity and stability. However, a series of dark events turned the place into a scene of fear and desolation. Isabel, the matriarch of the family, was known for her beauty and kindness. She cared for the children with dedication and was respected by all the farm's employees. Isabel and Joaquim seemed to have a happy marriage, but behind closed doors there were secrets and betrayals that slowly destroyed the harmony of the home. It is said that Joaquim, ambitious and insatiable, became involved with a young maid. Isabel discovered the betrayal, and the pain of the revelation consumed her. Desperate and desolate, Isabel began to lose control over her sanity. The transformation was slow but inevitable, and the once frequent smiles became rare, replaced by a vacant and distant look. Joaquim's betrayal was just the beginning of the end. Isabel's mental health deteriorated rapidly, and she began hearing voices and having disturbing visions. One day, Isabel, taken by uncontrollable fury, committed a terrible act. She killed her own children. She believed she was saving them from a future of pain and suffering caused by her husband's betrayal. After the act, Isabel was found wandering the house, with bloody clothes and a vacant look. The farm workers, horrified, called the authorities. Isabel was taken away, but not before leaving one last message, a scream that echoed through the walls of the house, filled with pain and despair. The farm, once prosperous and full of life, became a place of mourning. Joaquim, consumed by guilt and remorse, abandoned the property, leaving it to the mercy of time and oblivion. The story of the tragedy quickly spread through the region, and the farm gained a reputation for being cursed. After the tragedy, the farm was abandoned and became known as the Lady in White's Farm. Residents of the surrounding areas began to report sightings of a female figure dressed in white wandering the property. It is believed to be Isabel's spirit, eternally bound to the place of her horrible act. At night, her screams and wails can be heard, filling the air with overwhelming sadness. The reports varied. Some said they saw Isabel walking through the corridors of the main house, looking out the window as if waiting for someone. Others reported hearing her crying from the children's room, where the terrible act was committed. There were also those who claimed to feel a cold presence when passing near the farm, as if Isabel was always nearby watching. Several residents and curious visitors attempted to explore the farm, only to encounter terrifying visions. A group of young people who decided to investigate the farm at night ended up encountering Isabel's figure. One of them, braver, approached and was immediately overcome by paralyzing fear. He described the feeling as if his soul was being pulled into an abyss. The others fled in panic, swearing never to return. Stories of supernatural encounters became common. A local farmer, who ventured onto the property to gather wood, described seeing Isabel standing on the porch, looking at him with eyes full of sadness. He dropped his tools and ran, convinced that the farm was indeed cursed. Another account came from a couple who got lost during a walk and ended up at the farm at dusk. They described hearing whispers coming from the house and seeing a white figure moving through the windows. Scared, they ran to the main road and never returned. Years later, a descendant of the family, Maria, decided to investigate the truth behind the legend. Determined to bring peace to Isabel's spirit, Maria delved into the family's history, discovering old diaries and letters that revealed the tragedy in detail. With the help of a local priest, she performed a purification ritual on the farm, asking for forgiveness on Isabel's behalf. Maria, a young historian, became fascinated by her family's story. She found Isabel's diary, in which the matriarch described her love for her children and the suffering caused by Joaquim's betrayal. The last pages of the diary revealed Isabel's struggle against madness and her desperate desire to protect her children from an uncertain future. Determined to free Isabel's spirit, Maria sought out Father Jose, a man known for his wisdom and compassion. Together they planned a ceremony to purify the farm and bring peace to Isabel's tormented soul. The ceremony was set for a full moon night, when Isabel's presence was strongest. Maria and Father Jose prepared the place, lighting candles and burning incense at various points in the house. They recited prayers and chants, asking God to release Isabel's spirit and bring peace to her soul. During the ceremony, Maria felt a presence beside her. She described the sensation as if someone was touching her shoulder, conveying a message of gratitude. Father Jose continued to recite the prayers, asking forgiveness for Isabel's sins and pleading for divine mercy. At one point, the candles began to flicker, and a cold wind swept through the house. Maria and Father Jose felt a change in the air, as if a heavy burden was being lifted. Maria, with tears in her eyes, held Isabel's diary and promised to care for her family's memory, ensuring that their stories would be told with compassion and understanding. After the ceremony, reports of apparitions significantly decreased. Maria felt a calm presence during the ceremony, as if Isabel had finally found peace. The farm was restored and transformed into a memorial, reminding everyone of the tragedy and the importance of forgiveness and redemption. The transformation of the farm was a labor of love and dedication. Maria oversaw the restoration of the main house, ensuring that every detail was faithful to the original. She created a memorial for Isabel and her children, where visitors could learn about the family's history and reflect on the lessons of love, loss, and forgiveness. The local community, initially skeptical, began to accept and support the project. The farm became a place of pilgrimage, attracting people from all over the region who came to pay homage and find peace in their own lives. Maria, now a respected figure in the community, continued to work tirelessly to preserve her family's memory and promote healing and reconciliation. A skeptical investigator named Richard arrived in town years after the most intense reports. He did not believe in ghosts and was determined to debunk the legend. Equipped with modern technology, including high-definition cameras and temperature sensors, Richard set up camp near the site of the accident. The first nights were quiet, with no signs of paranormal activity. However, on the third night, a thick mist descended over the road. Richard, always skeptical, began to feel a presence. The temperature around his camp dropped drastically. When he reviewed the footage, he saw a whitish figure passing in front of his cameras, although he had seen nothing with the naked eye. Determined to uncover the truth, Richard continued his vigil. He began interviewing local residents, collecting accounts and comparing them with his own experiences. Despite his initial skepticism, he could not ignore the growing evidence of something inexplicable. Richard decided to delve deeper into Marianne and John's story. He discovered old diaries, photos, and accounts that painted a picture of deep and tragic love. The more he learned about them, the more he felt the emotional connection that bound Marianne to the road. He found John's diary, full of pain and longing. The last entry spoke of how he heard the wedding bells and felt Marianne's presence. Richard realized that the resolution of the mystery was not just about proving or disproving the ghost's existence, but understanding the love and tragedy that led to the creation of the legend. Determined to bring peace to Marianne's spirit, Richard organized one last ceremony, similar to the one performed by the historian years before. He invited Marianne and John's descendants, as well as the local residents, to participate. During the ceremony, Richard read excerpts from John's diary and Marianne's letter. There were tears and a deep sense of reconciliation. When the last candle was lit, a gentle wind swept through the road, dissipating the mist. Richard felt a presence beside him, and, upon looking, saw Marianne's figure, this time with a serene and peaceful expression. After that event, the reports of apparitions on the road almost completely ceased. Richard returned to the city, convinced that true love transcends death and that some stories need to be understood with the heart, not just the mind.